Hello and welcome once again to this edition of Newsmakers, The Road to Success here on My Fox 8 Plus. I'm Neill McNeill. You're about to watch the second part of my recent extended interview with a man some have called the most influential person you have never heard of. Local businessman, philanthropist, and author, and as the Washington Post once called him, world-class power broker, Dr. Robert J. Brown. Now, in the first part of our conversation, which you can watch on demand here in the My Fox 8 Plus Originals section of this app, Dr. Brown and I talked about his growing up in High Point, the influence of his grandmother, who was like a mother to him, his becoming a High Point police officer and federal agent before establishing a public relations firm in his hometown. Among the big focuses of this public relations firm was helping major national corporations like Woolworths, for example, address civil rights and other social challenges. And while traveling across the country as part of business, he had lunch in Atlanta one day with a gentleman by the name of Wyatt Walker, who also happened to be the chief of staff for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Walker then arranged that very afternoon a one-on-one meeting between Dr. King and Dr. Brown. In fact, it would be the start of a close relationship that would have a big influence on the nation's civil rights movement. And that first meeting with Dr. King is where we pick up our conversation. Talk to me a little bit about that first meeting and what exactly did Dr. King want you to do at that point?
Well, they were having a lot of difficulty, and when we were introduced by Reverend White T. Walker, who was his chief of
Chief of
staff,
staff, yes.
and he said, I told him what I was doing, and he said, I need some help, Bob.
Right.
I need all the help we can get because things are very difficult and we're facing challenges in every arena. And he said, sometimes I don't know which way to go. I don't know what to do.
Right.
And I said, I will do whatever I can. And I said, I will put a plug in the highest levels of business and industry, and particularly some of the people who's in this challenging way with the top people at Woolworth and some A&P and some of the other people that and with the biggest public relations firm. I was
Right.
working with Carl By and Associates, biggest public relations
Right.
firm in the world.
Right.
They had clients, the biggest companies in the
Right.
world. They had a direct link with the CEOs and the boards. And I said, I will try to be helpful in dealing with all of these because you're going to be dealing with all this.
So you helped Dr. King and his Southern Christian Leadership Conference raise money. You helped with logistics, but you also became a close personal friend with Dr. King. And here's a picture of you and Dr. King
Yeah.
from obviously when you were very young. And I've got another picture up here on this monitor over to your left
Yeah.
when you were with Dr. King. Do you know what he's giving you here? Do you know? It looks like a little
It was
treasure
what
box.
I was giving
You
him.
were giving him,
Yeah,
okay?
it was just a number of things that he liked, and that I'd fill it up with different things that I knew
All
he
right.
liked.
Do you know how old you were in that picture? Had to be in your
Mm,
30s, I would think. Late 20s, early 30s.
my late
Late
twenties.
20s.
Hmm.
That
My late
is just
20s. That's
that is
correct.
just a wonderful
My late
picture.
20s.
Uh, Dr. King was, I know he impressed you so much, and he called you his secret weapon.
Yeah.
Uh, is there something about Dr. King that you saw in him that most people didn't see? What if there was something people didn't know about Dr. King that they probably should know, what would it be?
Well, it was his sincerity, his purposeful life, and the way that he conducted himself. He wasn't going around beating on his chest, trying to say, I'm the biggest man, I can do this and I can do that. His humility, his humility was overwhelming sometimes to me. And it was hard for me to understand how he could take some of really bad language and stuff that was coming at him, sometimes from even some black people.
Yeah.
So I just, you know, I became just sort of locked in with his spirit, and I admired him as so much, and we became very
His
close friends.
his commitment to nonviolence. How did you feel about that? And did you think at times he could be a little stronger fighting back against some of the stuff that he faced?
Well, his commitment was overwhelming because he felt he was right next to God. I mean, God
Right.
was guiding him. He
Yes.
let God guide him and speak to him and let him know which way to go and how to do things. And it was very difficult because he was being hit from every side. There were some black people against him.
Yeah.
Whites were against him, and everybody was against him. But he kept his faith in God was overpowering, and he kept marching down that road of knowing, of feeling that God is going to change things. He is working through me. He is guiding me,
Right.
and that was so purposeful in his life.
I know you consider one of your biggest accomplishments working with him was the start of the Minority Business Enterprise Program, which helped minority businesses get off the
Mhm.
ground. And during that time, that was a big challenge for a lot of those business owners.
Oh, absolutely, because there were so many roadblocks. Uh, there were all kinds of things that were out there available, but blacks couldn't get involved because they cut you off
Yeah,
straight away before you
right.
could get involved. And so when I had the opportunity and the Lord opened the door for me, I just cut all that out,
Right,
all of it.
right, right.
Mhm.
Now, back in 2018 was when the last time I interviewed, and that marked 50 years since Dr. King's assassination in 2018. And you told me something back then that really stuck with me. You said, Neill, it has been 50 years, but I'm still dealing with this thing, his assassination. I mean, are you still dealing with that? How difficult is that for you still
I,
to
I
this
don't
day to
think it,
process?
I don't think it will ever go away.
Yeah,
Because he was a good man. He loved everybody. Uh, he wanted to make sure that everybody was on the right track, and that he felt that God was in the middle of everything, and that God is going to fix it.
yeah,
And God has fixed it to a very large extent. You're still going to have some difficulties from time to time,
right,
but from where we were when we started out with all of this until now, it's a light year away. It's like
right.
going to the moon
Yeah.
or wherever. And but he laid the foundation. He gave his life, his total life, his life here on earth, and he was, he went to heaven because of all of this.
You also told me that you thought he knew he was going to get killed. I mean, he
Oh,
he
he talked
expected that.
about it.
Yeah, tell me
He
about that.
talked about it.
What did he tell you?
Oh, we would be traveling sometimes, and we'd be in a hotel just sitting around talking, and he'd be talking about how he knew that he was going to they were going to take him out, that they were going to kill him, that they couldn't afford to let him live. But he said, I'm in touch with God 24 hours a day. He said so.
He wasn't fearful of
He
that.
wasn't he
He
wasn't
wasn't
fearful.
fearful of dying.
He wasn't fearful of dying at all because he felt that God had used him and that God was using him, using his life. And he was there because of what God wanted us to be doing the right thing and doing it in the right way. And so he was going to follow God no matter what happened. That was
Now,
what he was.
On the day of his assassination, I believe you were supposed to meet him that afternoon in Atlanta.
That's right.
He was in Memphis in support of the African American sanitation workers who were on strike at that
That's
time.
right.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you went down to Atlanta expecting to meet him.
Yeah,
And yeah, tell me about that.
because I had talked to him earlier,
Right.
and I had been out there where he was, but I came back a few days early, and then we talked, and I told him that I would meet him in Atlanta, and
Yeah, you
it
never
never
you never
happened.
got that meeting, and but
Uh,
he I think you got word that he was not going to be able to come back to Atlanta.
that's
He
right.
was going to stay in Memphis, and
Uh,
you took a plane on back to Charlotte with the intention of driving home to High Point, and you
that's
learned
right.
of his death when you got off the plane
Off the
at the.
plane.
Talk to me about that. How did you learn about when you walked off that plane? What
When I
happened?
got off the plane and walked into the airport terminal, people were running in the airport and walking fast, and I'm trying to figure out. I thought some kind of emergency in the airport, a bomb or something. And I'm trying to stop people, but I didn't see any black people, so I was trying to stop some of the white people, and they wouldn't even talk to me. They wouldn't even say anything. And then I saw this black porter or somebody, and I asked him, and he was rushing. He had some bags, and he was rushing. And I stopped him. I said, "Man, wait a minute. What in the world is going on?" He said, "Man, where you been?" He said, "They just killed Martin Luther King Jr."
Oh my goodness! And what went through
Oh,
your mind at that point?
I was devastated. I couldn't believe it.
I mean,
I said, I
did
just
you
talked
literally
to him.
physically have to sit down? I mean, do you remember?
I just stopped. I just stopped, man. And I started to weep, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it because been talking to Martin,
Yeah.
and so I couldn't believe it. It's a year, Bob. And then I called my house. I found a wall, one of them phones on
Pay
the wall,
phones, yeah.
payphone on the
Uh-huh.
wall, and I called my house, and I talked to my late wife, and Sally, she said, and she just hollered when she picked up the phone. And I said, "Sally, what's going on?" She started screaming, and I said, "Robert, where are you?" She said, "They just killed Dr. King." And she said, "There's several people at the house. They're waiting on you." He said, "They'll call from Atlanta, and where are you?" I said, "I'm in Charlotte. Just landed. I've been on a plane, and I didn't know what had happened." And so it was a horrible
It was a
time.
tough time.
It
Now,
was a horrible.
uh, immediate within days of his death, you were in communication with Dr. King's wife, Coretta,
Oh
and
yeah, that evening.
and she wanted advice on what to do next. And I understand there was a march scheduled in Memphis, and she asked you if she should take part in that march. Can you talk to me about that?
Well, the first thing she wanted me to do was come to Atlanta and to go pick up Dr. King's body.
Yes.
So I flew to Atlanta, and we flew to Memphis
Right.
on a plane along with three or four other people who she wanted to go
Right.
pick up his body. And people were calling her from everywhere trying to get in touch with her and
Right.
see what they wanted to do. And nobody had any real answers as to what to do. And and I told her, I said, you can't make any real decisions right now about all of this. I said, it's too much. I said, the whole nation and the world is looking to you now for some kind of leadership and say what you're going to do. And I said, you just got to work your way through this. I said, let's get through the funeral and get this all behind us, and you take care of your
Yeah. Yeah.
children, and then we'll move ahead, and we'll be thinking about what we're going to do, and then we'll be moving ahead.
Yeah. And Did you encourage her to take part in that march, or was that her decision?
What march?
The march in Memphis. In fact, I've got a picture of it right here.
Yeah.
You remember this?
Oh,
And
yeah, I
if
remember.
you see Mrs. King, you
Oh,
see the
yeah.
Reverend Jesse Jackson, and over his left shoulder, that's you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
And y'all decided to march that day.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then I see Andrew Young there.
Yeah, and Abernathy.
Yeah. I mean,
whole
that's
group.
about that's a good representation of the nation's civil rights movement in that
Harry
picture.
Belafonte.
Right there, yeah, a good picture. But you eventually got Dr. King's body back to Atlanta. There was the funeral. Dr. Brown, if Dr. King were alive today, what do you think he would think about where we are in our society right now?
I would think that he would be proud of most of the things that we've done up to now.
Right.
But we're not finished.
You're not finished.
I think what he would want and what all of us should want is a coming together of making sure that everybody has an equal chance at the starting gate and that nobody is left out because of their race, because they don't have enough money, and this, that, and the other. That's the kind of society that he wanted us to be. To work together, to live together, to be just good, God-fearing people. That's what he wanted with his life. He gave his life for that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we ought to be going. That's what we ought to be doing. That's what we ought to be about. Our churches, our institutions, living up to, uh, uh, you know, churches are wonderful. I love my church and I love churches all over the world. But I think the church needs a push all the time to do better, to do more of God's work, and so forth. Church is not just sitting there in a building where you can go every Sunday and sing in the choir or hear the preacher preach. The church is in each and every one of our hearts and bodies. That's what Christ has done for us. It's not, you're supposed to be doing good and doing what you can every day of your life, you know. You just don't wait to go to church on Sunday. I don't think that's what God was teaching us all about. His teaching's not that.
And certainly a lot of great memories that Dr. King left for us, and a life that will always be an influence to so many of us.
Absolutely.
As tragic as Dr. King's death was to him personally, Dr. Brown would go on to establish close personal relationships with two other high-profile world figures, President Richard Nixon and Nelson Mandela in South Africa. What Dr. Brown did for both of those people and his thoughts about them to this day will be well worth your watching in part 3 of our conversation, which we'll post soon right here on MyFox 8 Plus. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining us here for this latest edition of Newsmakers, The Road to Success. I'm Neill McNeill, and we'll see you next time.